Do you have anyone in your life that drives you crazy? I mean, absolutely crazy. Would you like to know how to take all of the power away from them? This week, I'm going to give you two techniques on how to do just that. Welcome, everyone. My name is Dr. Greg Stewart, and this is week 13 in a series to promote my book, I Cubed, Unlock the Inner Strength Behind Your Negative Emotions. And great news, the release date of the book has been moved up to sometime between mid-November and early December. So, hallelujah. This is the third part of my chapter, The Matrix of Insecurity. The two main formulas to insert into your mental model again are one, the issue isn't what they think of you, the issue is what you think of you. The only way for us to get triggered and have a whole bunch of inflated negative emotion by what other people think of us is to agree with their opinion and honestly be scared of the truth of it. Number two, nothing bothers me unless it should. Start with this, train yourself in this. So whenever something negative happens, just start with, frankly, apathy. Nothing bothers me. And then assess if it should bother you, which means it would be rational, healthy, wise, and right to respond to it. It is much easier to do this rather than impulsively respond with a whole bunch of negative emotion and then try and pull it back. So the first technique is this, the have faith technique. Again, do you have anyone in your life that drives you absolutely crazy? They just keep making comments and arguing with you. I want you to have faith, but I don't mean have faith in God. How many times have you began a sentence in your mind about them with, I can't believe they, I can't believe they, I can't believe they. How many times have you begun a sentence that way when you think about them? Well, honestly, start believing, have faith. The fact, honestly, that you're still shocked that they say what they say or do what they do is kind of more your issue, not theirs, right? The technique starts with changing the kind of time direction of your emotional energy. So instead of processing what they did, think ahead and predict what they're going to do or what they're going to say, right? Because they're not going to change. They will do this. So if you have a spouse, a sibling, parent, whatever, who shares your grief, team up with them and kind of make dollar bets with one another. So think ahead the next interaction you will have with that person and start brainstorming what you think they will say or do if any given topic comes up. So if the topic of your children comes up, what will they say? You will say, well, I think they will say, and your spouse or sibling or your partner will say, no, I think they're going to say this. Well, take a bet on it, right? When the time comes and that person puts their lack of emotional intelligence on full display again, what do you think your auto response will be at that moment? First, before the statement or response is completed, you'll have gleeful anticipation, excited to see which one of you are right. And when the response is actually revealed, you will either say, yes, I was right, or shoot, I thought I had that one. The person that you're talking about will be confused. So I have to say is, and they'll say, what are you talking about? Right. And they'll say, oh, sorry, inside joke. So prepare by considering what the most rational, healthy, wise, and right response would be if they respond with option A, right? Or the most rational, healthy, wise, and right response if they respond with option B. So first predict, are they going to say A or are they going to say B, right? And then if they say A, we'll respond with this, right? That's the most rational, healthy, wise, and right response. Or B if they respond this. So I don't mean that the response that you'll give back would be the greatest burn or comeback. It's not about that. It's about the most rational, healthy, wise, and right, grid response. Like if you have to set a boundary or what have you in response to them. Our goal here is not to win an insult contest, but respond in the most effective way, the most emotionally intelligent way, the most rational, healthy, wise, and right way, right? The most mature way. So think back to chapter one and achieve the two goals of grace and truth, right? You want to achieve like walk away with grace and truth response, that both responses are true. You can say something like, I understand your frustration, but the truth is, but I can see your point too, right? Think about the difference in the emotional experience before and after using this have faith technique. You have completely taken away the power that person had over you to trigger you emotionally. And now you're completely equipped to have that person have minimal negative emotional impact on you. So whatever those people have said, it was probably exposing some insecurity in you. right? Whether they said contained some element of truth or contained no truth, it doesn't matter. Either way, it drove you crazy, right? Why? Because you don't have any control over them. You only have control over your intrapersonal and interpersonal responses. So it takes away, when you predict it, it takes away the shock factor that they are who they are by predicting it and then strategizing your response to it. The second technique is called embrace the digs. What do you do when people make comments that are simply a little one-liner insult or dig? I've had people like this in my life, and it drove me crazy, but I remember going absolutely insane each time they would throw that little grenade in my direction. So using the exposed principle, I kept asking myself, every time I got so irritated and angry and triggered by their little digs, okay, Greg, what is being exposed in you? Right. So I'd ask myself, what's being exposed to me, and would hold myself accountable and say, Greg, the fact that you get so upset when they do that is not their issue, it's yours. Why are you giving them so much power over you? When people use these little one-liners against us, it's so easy to start attacking their character and motives in our minds, right? Many of those judgments may have some merit, but it's attacking them in our minds, the most rational, healthy, wise, and right path to achieve the emotional goal of confidence and security? Of course not. But that is such a common path that we as humans use with very little fruit at the end of that path. The most effective technique I created in response to their digs was simply embrace them and exaggerate them. Didn't bother to differentiate whether or not what they said was true. It didn't matter. I simply would agree with them and exaggerate it. For example, if someone said to me, like when I was in ministry, well, if I was a young pastor, a more seasoned pastor wouldn't do that. I would simply say, oh my goodness, you are so right. I have some serious immaturity issues. I'm surprised the board of elders haven't called me in to address it with me. When you agree with it and exaggerate it, they're kind of left speechless because you have completely sucked all the negative energy out of the comment. After they don't have any more emotional fuel to keep it going because they gave you their worst, honestly. When I began practicing that technique, the results were absolutely amazing. It made the situation super light. And many times, honestly, we both laugh. So try it. Now, if what they said has merit, there is some truth to it, I would absolutely walk away owning it. So if it's true, you have to own it and would work on it. If it wasn't true, then it ended right there. I simply quit walking the pathway of defending myself, trying to convince someone else to think differently of me. However, it always depends on the person. Sometimes I would respond with this technique, and if their comment was out of character for them, I would follow up and ask them if there was something that we needed to talk about because it was unlike them. I use the proactive teachability technique I talked about before to remove their defensive mechanisms because maybe they weren't seeing something that I wasn't. Maybe I was blind to something. This technique is more effective for those people who have like an addiction to their grenades. Like they just keep doing the digs, right? That's what this technique is for. So changing them or having them stop launching the grenades is simply an unachievable goal. You won't achieve that goal. And I honestly quit trying to achieve it. Insecurity is actually at the bottom level of emotional management system. So as we transition to this process, we go from insecurity, which is, we can be exposed at any minute, before moving on to examine anxiety, right? So it's insecurity, anxiety, fear, worry, anger, and then depression. So we're just finished insecurity. So from insecurity, before we get to anxiety, I'm going to go into the basement door and address what's in the basement, the machine of our identity, value, and worth. So we will see you next week.